Hey everybody, this is Ashton.
And Jordan from Show Me Vegas.
And happy Halloween, everybody. This is actually one of my favorite times of year.
And we thought, what better way to celebrate Halloween than by combining a little bit spooky with our favorite city of Las Vegas.
On the video today, we're going to be talking about one hotel in particular that has been known to be a little bit mysterious, a little dark, maybe haunted or eerie.
It's one hotel where some of the most unusual and unexplained things in Las Vegas have taken place.
We're talking about Luxor, Las Vegas. And we're going to be exploring the darker side of its history.
And we're going to let you decide for yourself, is Luxor haunted, cursed,
or just unlucky?
Luxor, Las Vegas, an unmistakable part of the Vegas skyline and the largest pyramid in the world outside of Egypt. On the inside, it looks much like any other resort in Las Vegas, a sprawling casino, restaurants, shops, happy vacationers. But beneath the glitz and glamour lies a far different story. Could it be that the pyramid is home to more than just paying guests? The unlucky history of Luxor begins all the way back at construction. While Luxor was being built, at least 2 and possibly as many as 7 workers died before construction of the hotel was even finished.
Right off the bat, it was found that the pyramid was actually sinking. That actually happened early on, and they supposedly rectified that situation. You occasionally hear rumors that it's happening again and that the building is doomed to eventually be torn down. That's neither here nor there.
So when Luxor first opened, it actually featured this attraction called the Nile River Ride. And what it did, it was actually on the casino floor. It was guided by a actual tour guide, and he would float around the property at casino level, and he would point out, different hieroglyphics, what they meant. It looked really cool. I wish it would have actually stuck around. Along this Nile River ride, there was actually tunnels that you would go in and out of. It was actually a pretty cool concept. However, unfortunately, a lot of guests that were riding this tour started seeing ghostly figures, strange things, shadows in the dark. And as legend goes, a lot of these people started correlating these ghostly figures that they would see with actually construction workers that died on the project or building of the Luxor. Now, whether that's true or not, who knows? But what's interesting is that it was dismantled and discontinued after just 3 years.
Construction workers are far from the only ghosts that are reported to be in the Luxor Hotel. One of the most famous is the ghost of a blonde woman who supposedly haunts the 12th floor. Guest experiences up there range from people seeing apparitions of this woman to waking up in the middle of the night feeling like somebody's laying on their chest and they're gasping for breath. Now, one of the more interesting aspects of all these stories is a lot of them, one of the things they have in common is these people say that when they woke up, they were actually having a dream that included a blonde woman. They didn't know who she was, just a mysterious blonde. Another ghost that supposedly has been seen around the hotel is that of a man in a suit, a pinstriped suit, possibly older attire, that is commonly seen on the walkways in the upper levels of the hotel. But it's crazy, you don't have to go very far at all to find ghost stories at Luxor. Really, all you have to do is pull up TripAdvisor, Google reviews. And I know, we take those things with a grain of salt, but there are so many of them. It's kind of hard to ignore.
Of course, not all the stories that you hear actually involve people seeing ghosts or apparitions or anything like that. However, a lot of people just won't stay at Luxor because they feel like it has just a bad vibe or bad feeling with it. And I'm not just talking about the food at the buffet, although I hear it's pretty scary in its own right.
So regarding the energy in the hotel, it's interesting. We did a room tour of one of the tower suites at Luxor in 2019. That video is actually out on our channel, but we rented the room just to do the room tour, and we did a walkthrough of it. And one of the things we remarked about, and we talk about this in the video, is that after we left, we both discussed how we just did not feel right in that room. We didn't feel comfortable in there. was not the type of place you felt like you could relax or even let your guard down. You just didn't feel right in that room. It had just kind of a weird energy about it. And we felt that way as long as we were in the tower. And as soon as we left the hotel room and went back down to the casino and then left the property, we felt completely normal again. So it's one of those things, I know that sounds weird, but it really does affect whether or not people sometimes want to visit Luxor. Of course, later on, just this year, I actually stayed at Luxor again. I stayed in one of the pyramid rooms, which are supposedly more active than the tower rooms, and I had absolutely no experiences whatsoever in that pyramid room. I was very comfortable. I enjoyed my stay quite a bit and made a video about that experience as well, so you can check that one out on the channel too.
Almost every Las Vegas hotel, or any hotel anywhere for that matter, has seen its share of deaths. In fact, estimates are that as many as 1,100 visitors die in Las Vegas every year. The majority of these deaths are of natural causes, but an astounding 15% are suicides, 11% are homicides, and 6% go completely unsolved. Most of the time, these incidents go unreported because, let's face it, hotel deaths aren't exactly good for business. And while tales of ghosts can seem far-fetched to many people, what can't be discounted is that Luxor has had more than its share of bad luck.
All right, so the first documented death that took place at Luxor after it opened actually occurred in 1996. And it's one of the really more disturbing stories that's taken place at Luxor since it opened way back in 1993. So a woman jumped from the 26th floor balcony to her death. She landed right outside the what was then the entrance to the buffet. They since have remodeled that, and it's now where the food court is at Luxor, but the woman had no identification. She was just a woman in her 30s. It's been rumored for a long time that she was probably a sex worker. That's not confirmed, but what is confirmed is that this actually happened, and it was the first of a long line of documented and unusual deaths to take place at Luxor.
Not long after that, in 1997, a maid found a 16-year-old girl strangled to death in one of the Luxor's rooms. Turns out that she was actually a sex worker who had a fake ID. So the interesting part of this is that the guy who did it just left, and then he was actually traced back to California where he was living, and he was detained at that time, and he actually pled guilty to the charges. And what's even really creepier is that every time that he was asked why he did it, all he could say is he really has no idea why.
Another unusual story that took place at Luxor in 2007, one of their food court workers was actually killed in an explosion on top of the Luxor's parking garage. So apparently this employee was going back to his car with his girlfriend either after his shift or on his break, and there was a coffee cup turned upside down on top of his car. When he moved that cup, a homemade explosive device exploded, blew a hole in the roof of his car, and sent shrapnel through his body and his head, and he died. Interestingly enough, the two men that committed that crime actually are in prison right now. September 2022, one of them actually broke out of prison. Don't worry, he was apprehended just a few days later in, guess where? Las Vegas.
In 2010, a fight between friends actually happened at the Luxor Tower Suite, and unfortunately, one of those friends ended up dead.
2012, 3 guests were actually infected with the deadly bacteria Legionella. 3 guests were infected, one of them actually died. What's kind of scary about this story is that after 2 guests were infected with the bacteria, the hotel conducted all sorts of water tests on the water system. They all came back clean. And after those tests, a 3rd guest contracted the bacteria and actually died from it.
Later that same year, 2 men actually got into a fight in one of the tower elevator lobbies. During that fight, one of the men actually shoved the other man up against the elevator door, and mysteriously, that elevator door just happened to open and there was no elevator there. So the man ended up falling 25 feet down the elevator shaft.
Luxor has definitely experienced a lot of high-profile and highly unusual deaths over the years, but so have a lot of public places, and nobody believes those to be haunted. So what's different about this hotel that seems to have retained all of this negative energy?
So a lot of the happenings at Luxor, a lot of people try to tie back to the fact that it's a pyramid. The building is a pyramid itself. Now, obviously it was built and designed and decorated originally to emulate ancient Egyptian culture, which in and of itself is pretty mysterious. If we know anything about the ancient pyramids in Egypt, those were used as tombs. A lot of people don't necessarily want to go gamble in a place that's modeled after a tomb. They think it's bad luck. They think perhaps there's even a curse on it. It has long been believed to harness certain powers. The shape of the pyramid is believed to have attracted energy for centuries. And then the ancient Egyptians also put certain safeguards in place. And a lot of people actually believe that the developers' inattention to detail and historical accuracy has actually put a curse on the building. Now, it's not completely certain one way or the other, but it is believed that the ancient Egyptians believed very strongly in the duality. A lot of people believe there were generally two sphinxes. The Luxor pyramid only has one facing east. A lot of people believe there should have been one put on the other side of the building facing west, and that would protect the building from any type of curse. Whether it's that or other inaccuracies with the hieroglyphs and all those sorts of things that they decorated the building with originally, their lack of attention to detail has left the pyramid, which is, kind of in and of itself a mystical thing, has left it unguarded. So a lot of people believe that without those safeguards, the pyramid is doomed to attract a dark energy or even trap the negative energy of the things that have happened there.
So a theory that many of the old-timers around the area have is actually that the whole land itself is just cursed or haunted or whatever you want to say. And that could be due to actually its mob ties in the city. Have you ever heard of holes in the desert? Well, back in the early days of Las Vegas, Luxor was actually pretty far out in the desert. And it was said that it was a pretty common place for mobsters to actually bury their victims. Of course, nobody knows if that's true or not, but it's an interesting thought.
One last theory about some of the supposed hauntings that have taken place at Luxor center around the Titanic artifact exhibit that you find in the atrium there. There are other Titanic artifact exhibits in the United States, and all of them are considered to be haunted places. People have experiences there, as if spirits, from the Titanic have attached themselves to some of those artifacts. That's the theory. One of the most famous is actually the Titanic exhibit in Branson, Missouri, just down the road from us, which was actually investigated by none other than Las Vegas local and famous paranormal investigator Zach Bagans. Say what you will about Zach Bagans and Ghost Adventures, but one of the better episodes they ever put out was an investigation of that Titanic museum down in Branson. Really interesting stuff. But whatever the case, some people believe that Titanic exhibit being in Luxor's atrium, and now of course there's a new King Tut exhibit. Some people believe those exhibits and artifacts are in and of themselves bringing negative energy into the building.
And finally, of course, it could just be honest bad luck. As you know, Vegas was not built on what you would call good luck. Majority of the time, as we know better than anybody, is built on bad luck. So maybe for Luxor, this was just a cold streak.
I mean, it is interesting to note that all of these high-profile incidents that we've discussed in this video and that you can find online, most of them occurred prior to 2012. 2012 was a bad year for Luxor, but very little in the way of high-profile incidents have happened since then. So maybe it's possible that Luxor's luck has changed. So I guess the question is Luxor haunted, cursed, or just plain unlucky? Well, I guess that all depends on your perspective. Hey, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate Jeff Walker of the Jeff Does Vegas podcast for helping us out with some of that voice work. Jeff has got, as you might have noticed, one of the best radio voices in the business, and he also puts out an excellent podcast. It's called Jeff Does Vegas. I'll put the link in the description and even on the screen right now, but thanks, Jeff, for helping us out with that. Hey, if you like this video, this one's a little bit out of the norm from what we put on our channel, but be sure and hit that thumbs up button, smash the subscribe button, and also turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of our videos in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video because there's always more for us to show you on Show Me Vegas.